Welcome back to a real estate Monday / wedding analogy day that we are rocking here. I love it. It's so fun to get to do this. I really appreciate you guys out there listening, and I know a lot of times, we get to bring some of the best professionals to the radio and really help you understand what's available, what opportunities are available. And, today is really no different. Rosie Rourke joins us, broker with John L. Scott Real Estate, the top sales agent in the Kent North branch. And, Rosie, how are you?
I'm good.
It's nice to see you. And, thanks for listening. I know you've listened to us a little bit.
I have.
And your kids are at home listening, Jordan and Tony out there. So that's always fun. So, Rosie, you're consistently in the top 1% of realtors, and you're a former nominee of the Realtor of the Year award by the Seattle King County Association of Realtors. So you've been in this game. You know what you're doing.
Yes.
And so what do you see right now that is so different than, I guess, you've seen in the past? And, I mean, it's the shifting of the markets, perceptions. And what are some things you're seeing out there?
Well, definitely the shift has been the distressed sales. And that's been the last 3 or 4 years. So it's been a learning experience, to say the least. But thankfully, I feel like we've hit our bottom. And now I'm having to shift my conversations to, there's bidding wars. There's a lack of inventory. The interest rates are at an all-time low, as Ryan had mentioned. So now it's a better time than any to jump in and do the purchase.
And so when people decide they're going to go do this, I mean, you sit with people, you're discussing their home buying goals, but there's still some convincing that needs to be done in this shifting market. I mean, how do you prove to them, and what tools do you use to show them, look, it's not how it was 6 months ago or 10 or a year ago or whatnot. This is today. I mean, this is today's market.
Yeah. In today's market, each neighborhood has its own personality, its own pricing, and its own history and its own trends. So I have to look at each one individually, and I specialize more in the South King County area. So I brought some statistics with me to share, to actually show examples, because I have to break it down to facts with the buyers. Sellers, different story. I'm having a different conversation with them as a listing agent. But in focusing on buyers, the news has been doing a really good job at saying market is shifting. We are having a low inventory rate and interest rate. And so now is the time to buy. But that hasn't reached all of the people out there that are wanting to buy a house. So I have to have that conversation with them and show them the facts, because now all they want to do is negotiate hard.
Sure.
And get the best deal. They're a little nervous about
so
paying too much.
So the people who don't go online or read the newspaper or listen to the radio about business.
Is that South King County? I don't know.
They just refuse to believe it. They're like, yeah, I read that somewhere, but they don't know.
It's and not to get political, but it's like people who don't believe in climate change or global warming until it gets really hot in their house, their neck of the woods. And all of a sudden they're looking around going, oh yeah, that stuff could be true. Well, And
it was true just a few months ago. And that is a pretty different conversation. If you and I were buying a house and it was 6 months ago, I would be having a different conversation. So it is fairly new, at least in our neck of the woods of South King County.
Take me through how you talk to a buyer. What the conversation looks like, the tools you're using, the markets and the stats, and what's changed.
If a home is well priced, short time on the market, what we call a cream puff listing, ready to go, move in ready, all the other buyers are looking at it too because of the shortage of inventory. So it's hard for buyers, and I don't mean to make pressure for them, but if you like it, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking the wedding analogy. If you like it, you have to seize the opportunity, because if you lose out on that one, inevitably they're comparing it to the one they lost.
It's the pretty girl, right?
It's the house. All the guys want the pretty girl,
right? And so you got to be able to, step up to the plate and at least ask her or it out on a date.
At
the house on a date.
Go
on. See it, get excited. Well, but the truth of the matter is, there are houses that are desirable.
Yes.
Like you talk about this cream puff listing, and that's what people will.
They're all attracted to it.
Absolutely. And so when you find that, it really doesn't matter what area you're in, does it? I mean, we talk a little bit about the area by area, but
it does.
It does.
Yeah. So I have to show some facts. I brought some statistics from the Northwest Multiple Listing, And King County in the past year has had a shortage of inventory, a drop in inventory, I should say, of 38%. But if you look at Kent, it's dropped by 28. It's still really good. But we're not seeing them fly off the shelf like in Bellevue where it dropped 43%. So it's a different neighborhood. And then I can break it down living in Renton. I evaluated Renton in particular. Renton, it dropped quite a bit. It went down to 48% in inventory, and the prices have increased. They've gone up by about 20%.
And so you really start to be able to, you talk about proving with
prove
numbers. I mean, there's not much room for argument here, is there?
They don't want to hear it just off the cuff because they have mom and dad telling them, negotiate hard. This is a tough market. It's a buyer's market. And so I have to educate them based on the market facts.
And then so when people hear this, what is most people's knee-jerk reaction?
They don't believe it at first. But then I do bring out the facts of the multiple listing. I can drive them out to different houses. And also,
they all start saying sold on the signs.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say, so some of the houses that we look at, they revisit the next day, they're pending. And that starts to sink in. But it's unfortunate that it takes losing some good houses to learn the lesson. So in looking at the facts, it's being able to face that information and structure the right deal that makes sense for them.
We're here with Rosie Rourke, broker with John L. Scott Real Estate. Rosie, we just have a couple of minutes left here before we have to go to break. When you get into that area by area, I mean, you even talked to even like going as close as small as, I guess, a city block or depending on where you are.
Yeah.
But you get into these areas by areas. That really is what I would imagine with a lot of people who are buying. That's what starts to create a lot more urgency.
Exactly.
Because as you narrow your search, you narrow your scope, you realize, well, there's only 6 possible houses or 4 possible houses for sale.
You have a school district that you need. You have a size, garage. You have certain criteria that narrows it down. And to give you an example, I had one client the beginning of the year. Her price range was 200 max in the Fairwood, Southeast Renton location. We were seeing some great houses. She just didn't jump on them, wasn't ready to commit. Mm-hmm. Now there's 2 available homes from 190 to 205 in Renton, and they're not 2,600 square feet. They're not 1990s homes. They're 1,100 square feet, 3-bed, 1-bath, no garage, carport. So it priced her right out of the market because of waiting that 6 months.
It's kind of when things are when you have that opportunity, you have to seize it. And you have to be prepared.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it seems that it seems that it's becoming more and more apparent right now. I mean, especially over summer when everything started to really heat up, and then you talked about the mainstream media. The Seattle Times, Wall Street Journal had an article, and that from a national level. All of that creates more urgency, and then driving them neighborhood to neighborhood and seeing the sold signs.
That's right.
All creates more urgency. And so people just have to be ready to pull the trigger.
Yeah, and look at the facts.
Yeah. Well, Rosie, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And, it is tough for buyers out there. A lot of buyers have started to experience what we have called, and we've heard it called, buyer burnout. When we come back, we're going to discuss a little bit more of buyers' frustrations with the market and some big pieces you don't want to miss. We'll be right back after this break. You're listening to Brashnomics.